very good evening and warm welcome to Breaking Today right here on Switch TV. My name is Lincoln Umbogo. Our sign language interpreter is Teresia Washida. We have a lot prepared for you tonight, but first, let's take a look at the headlines.
Huduma card, it means a service card. It's the card that you're going to use to get services wherever you go in the country.
The government launches the distribution of Huduma Namba cards in Kiambu and Machakos counties to replace current IDs. Civil servants to get a comprehensive insurance inclusive of COVID-19 cover. BBI's signature collection drive to be launched tomorrow, even as a section of political leaders rubbish the exercise. Well, we are live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter at Switch TV Kenya. Send your feedback to SMS 111 and at Lincoln Wumbogo on all my social media handles and at Switch TV Kenya. And on to the top stories tonight. 10 people are feared dead after a boat capsized in Lake Victoria Tuesday night off the shores of HONGE Beach within Bondo, Siaya County. The boat capsized at around 11 p.m. while carrying over 20 traders, mostly from the neighboring country of Uganda, when strong winds destabilized it. The boat was transporting maize and bananas to Usenge Beach when it capsized. According to the chairperson of the local beach management unit, Elias Odhiambo, 10 other people were rescued. Moving on, the government will phase out current national identification cards by December 12, 2021. They will instead be replaced by the Huduma Namba cards to be issued from December 1st, 2020. Consequently, one will not access government services without the new document, Andrew Kero reports.
Information, Communication and Technology ICT Cabinet Secretary John Michel, while speaking at Machakos Golf Club during the rollout of Huduma Namba card distribution, said that the government will begin the nationwide rollout of the cards next month.
All the legal requirements and obligations have now been settled and the card can now be issued. Ukienda hospitali, unatumia hii card. Ukienda kwa driver's license, ukienda kwa shule, hii card. Information yako inawekwa kwa hiyo card.
Interior CS Fred Matiang'i also oversaw a similar launch in Kiambu County, where he revealed a second phase of mass registration for the card will be rolled out in April 2021. The Interior Ministry asserted that the National Integrated Identity Management System will help in security surveillance and response strategies as it will ease realizing police officer per capita rates across the country. Matiang'i, however, reiterated that one will not receive any government services without the card.
When we did the registration exercise last year, we registered about 37 million people. To be served in a public office, you must produce this. But between now and 12 months from now, you have time to collect your card. And how you collect your card, utaambiwa na SMS. Fulani wa fulani, Bwana Wanyanga, kadi yako iko pande ile, kuja uichukue.
Some 38 million people had been registered by the time 9.6 billion Kenyan shillings exercise closed in May last year, even as the process has been dodged by controversy amid claims that it could violate the rights of individuals. Andrew Kero, Switch TV.
Thank you, Andrew Kero, for that story. Meanwhile, the corona period has proved to be a tough time for private schools nationally in terms of management. Most private schools either closed down or are deeply engrossed in debt. Samuel Namukana filed the following report on the plight of private schools.
This is Three Bells Group of Schools, a private institution at the heart of Kibra here in Nairobi. Grade 4 pupils are outside the classrooms having their practical lessons, but within the institution lies a problem.
It's been so difficult for us to pay this place because we have rented the place. It is also quite difficult also to pay the support staff, especially the watchman who have been working.
Joshua Muia is the head teacher of this primary school. He tells us that the employees of this institution had gone for months with either no salaries or half-paid salaries.
Teachers have been going unpaid since the month of March.
Mishahara imekuwa saa zingine nakuja nusu, ingine imekatwa. Saa zingine mara nyingi unaweza kuwa upokei pia mshahara.
It has been a series of tough months for private schools nationally since they depend directly on students' payment to run the institution. And with this pandemic, most of the parents had been laid off work. Hence, fees payment has been an issue nationally, crippling private schools.
Mshahara yenye tunapokea tumeendelea kulipa madeni yale tulikuwa tumepata wakati wa corona tukiwa manyumbani.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought a halt to the functioning of private schools in the country. Will the reopening of schools on 4th of January help in reviving the economic sector in these institutions? Samuel Namkana, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Samuel Namukana. The collection of signatures required for the referendum is set to begin tomorrow, and Kenyans have mixed reactions on this. Well, our reporter Majibu Kitsao got a chance to talk to Kenyans and compiled the following report.
The collection of signatures required before the referendum is set to begin this Thursday. However, there have been mixed reactions among Kenyans. There are those who say, yes, we are ready for the exercise, and there are those who still oppose the drive. However, today we had a chance to talk to Kenyans, and this is what they had to say.
Hela kuna, uchumi pia mbaya. Alafu ukiangalia tutabaki tuna mwaka mzima mmoja tu, alafu tunaingia kwa ile general election. Itakuwa haje tukienda kwa referendum sasa, then next year unamwambia mwananchi ule mwenye ana njaa aende kwenye election tena. Itakuwa ngumu. Sasa inafaa viongozi wetu wakae chini, wao wenyewe wajiulize swali mingi kama hatujafika hapo.
Nakubali kwa sababu tunataka maisha yetu at least change. Kila kitu inaenda digital.
Some, however, took the chance to challenge others to read and understand the document before signing, as they too urged the government to play their part in educating the masses.
Katika referendum ni vizuri tutumiwe hiyo copy tusome kabla ya nini ya kufanya hiyo referendum.
A total of 1 million signatures is required before the whole exercise begins. According to Raila, the exercise, which is to be conducted within 30 days, will be done expeditiously so as to pave way for the referendum, which is set for June next year.
Mimi naisupport, lakini kwanza wangeelimisha watu kuhusu hiyo BBI, ndio sasa waanza collect signatures, mtu akuwe na sign akijua na sign nini.
Does this exercise mean that the two, President Uhuru Kenyatta and co-leader Raila Odinga, have slammed the door for further changes in the BBI? Or what impact does the referendum have in the 2022 general elections? Majibu Kitsao, Switch TV News, Nairobi.
Well, Majibu Kitsao's stories brings us to a question of the day. Do you think the signature collection exercise will be fruitful? Send in your feedback to our SMS line 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Wumbogo on all my social media handles. Moving on, a month after Kenya celebrated 10 years of its constitution, it could as well be its last. However, as the rollout of collection of 1 million signatures for the referendum is expected to kick off tomorrow, Brinky Today News Desk spoke to a governance expert who explains the process and steps of taking Kenya to a referendum and what a yes or no means.
As momentum takes shape of a possible referendum in Kenya, the BB report is marking its second step of a constitutional amendment process to its launch at the Bomas of Kenya to signature collection tomorrow.
9 agenda issues that bedevil Kenyans have been addressed, in my view, because from where I sit, devolution and public participation very key. And so I will tell you that by and large, those issues have been brought forward, they have been addressed. But the question is, have the citizens been given an opportunity to resonate with them? Now, two things. One is that the citizens have been given that opportunity through the initial process, which was the task force. So the task force went around the country, engaged with the citizens. People also sent their memorandum documents. And County Governance Watch also put together a team of young people and also those people whose interest is in devolution and different concerns that were part of the 9-point agenda items, and submitted our memorandum document to the steering committee, to the task force. And then during the validation process, we also did the same. We were given an opportunity through a request that we wrote to the steering, to the secretariat, and they accorded us actually an opportunity to be able to meet with the steering committee. But given the kind of tones that are currently within the country, I think it is important to also make this process inclusive so that people don't look at it like an exclusive, as a process that is exclusive for a specific club of people.
Kevin Osindo, Executive Director of County Governance Watch, however, criticizes DP Ruto and his brigade for rubbishing the BBI report without giving viable solutions.
The BBI report has an array of issues. As I said earlier on, it has already clustered what issues require constitutional amendments, what issues require legal interventions, political and also institutional. So you give them a ballot that then also clusters these issues. So people can say, I agree with this issue, I don't agree with this issue, and in a better way, and if proper civic education is done, Daniel, is also to allow Kenyans to provide recommendations. So what do you think needs to be done? And if that is done, I don't think there is even any single politician who will not be for that particular process. And that is the best way, in my view, to also guarantee the President Uhuru Kenyatta and maybe the Right Honorable Raila Odinga a better legacy.
Now, according to the governance expert, to save Kenya from going through a financial crisis, so much the BBI report in the 2022 general elections, but there will be created a 7th slot for Kenyans to choose between a yes or no in support for the BBI report. Daniel Kariuki for Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Daniel Kariuki. On our special segment today, Dissecting the BBI, David Kagina raises, among other things, the issue of a powerful presidency, one with the power to hire and fire. Take a look.
The Building Bridges Initiative report recommends that Kenyans continue electing their president, who remains to be the head of state and government, with an executive which also includes the deputy president, a prime minister and 2 deputy prime ministers. However, the bone of contention is on the powers of the head of state, which makes him an imperial, almost untouchable president, bearing the powers to appoint the prime minister and his 2 deputies, and can also equally dismiss them.
Imperial president. Kenya tumekuwa tunapigania kuwa na president with the less powers. So unapata BBI inapatia the next president a lot of powers. President anaanza kuwa yeye ndio ana-elect, yeye ndio ana-appoint the deputy president wake. Anakuja ana-appoint the prime minister, arudi tena appoint the 2 deputy prime ministers. And remember, he's the same person who will be appointing the ombudsman to the judiciary. So unapata huyo mtu atakuwa na a lot of powers that hata wakina Raila na wengine wamekuwa wakipigania tusikuwe na an imperial president, a president who is a dictator and wields a lot of power.
In Clause 22 of the Constitutional Amendment Bill is the suggestion to remove the condition that fresh elections be held when a person nominated as deputy president dies or on before a scheduled election, in which is termed as, and I quote, to avoid uncertainty and minimize tension in a presidential election.
Na kwa hiyo BBI inaonekana kurudisha udikteta, manake katiba ya 2010 ilikuwa imegawanyisha mamlaka kutoka kwa Rais Moi ambaye alikuwa na mamlaka makubwa zaidi na kutumia mamlaka hayo vibaya, na ikawa ni mamlaka yagawanyishwe, yapewe bunge na yapewe mahakama, mambo kama yale. Kwa hivyo BBI imerudisha.
In Article 17 in the Constitutional Amendment Bill of the BBI, the report recommends doing away with the concept of voting by delegation in the Senate and consequently resulting to members of the Senate having an equal vote, a move not well appreciated by some of the sitting senators.
Because you cannot have a mongrel of the National Assembly that is now also the executive and is also oversighting itself, and a weak Senate only relegated to deal with the county matters. We must have a situation where the Senate is also the house of clearance. It's the house of sobriety. It's the house of oversight.
Human rights activists and defenders of democracy have the feeling that having an imperial president is a direct threat to the constitutional democracy of this country. Dissecting the BBI here on Switch TV, I'm David Kagina.
Well, thank you, David Kagina, for dissecting the BBI for us. That segment comes to you every Monday, Wednesday and Friday right here on Switch TV. Well, that still brings us to a question of the day. Do you think the signature collection exercise will be fruitful? Do you think the signature collection exercise will be fruitful? Send in your SMS or send in your feedback to our SMS 111 and at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Umbuga. With us, Derry now, take a short commercial break. Stay tuned, we'll be back with more. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. We are live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter at Switch TV Kenya. The Ministry of Environment and Forestry and the Kenya Forest Service, in partnership with the UNDP, are implementing the Forest Carbon Partnership Facility and Readiness Project in Kenya. According to the Kenya Forest Service, Kenya needs to plant 2 billion seedlings between now and 2022 to achieve 10% tree cover. The KFS has laid out a strategy aimed at increasing the forest cover from the current 7.2% to 10% by 2022.
Kenya loses around 12,000 hectares of forest every year. The number is about 4.7 million hectares globally. This is according to United Nations Development Programme UNDP resident representative Walid Badawi.
We would like by then to have planted 2 billion seedlings, and the strategy also requires mapping of the entire nation on where to plant those trees. So we have mangroves in the coast, and we have different ecological zones like Northeastern Province, Western Kenya, Rift Valley. And what the strategy indicates is that there has to be mapping of sites and making sure that there is a matching of the species to the sites.
Speaking during a media breakfast meeting, Dr. Chris Kiptor, the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, noted that Kenya requires 48 billion shillings to implement the 10% forest cover strategy by the year 2022.
So on the table was a proposal that UNDP has been formulating over the last couple of months to tap into some possible resourcing from UNDP headquarters that is looking at the nexus between reforestation and tree growing and the tree planting agenda, youth engagement and employment, and innovation. So that is a proposal that we're very pleased has benefited from the views of the Youth Sounding Board already. We've discussed it, we've taken their views on board, we've reinforced the proposal, we're waiting for funding hopefully in the next few weeks. And once that comes, you'll see some interesting initiatives that will be precisely around that. The value chain, as P.S. Kipto was saying, in this forestry sector is huge, and I see a lot of opportunities for youth.
The Ministry of Environment and Forestry re-emphasized on the national strategy for achieving and maintaining over 10% tree cover by the year 2022. While the cost of implementation is estimated to be 48 billion shillings, the estimated annual cost of inaction is 168 billion shillings over the strategy implementation period. The PS said the ministry was keen on supporting groups to establish nurseries for commercial seedling production as post-COVID recovery measure.
Elsewhere, the World Antimicrobial Awareness Week aims to increase awareness of the global antimicrobial resistance and to encourage best practices among the general public, health workers and policy makers to avoid the further emergence and spread of drug-resistant infections. While addressing the press at Kenyatta Hospital, Health CAS Mercy Mwangangi has called upon health workers to give clear guidance to patients on how to use antimicrobial medicine.
An element which perhaps we need to look at, Dr. Lois, as we move this forward, the role of the community, the general public, mwananchi, the person who goes home with a prescription. When they go home, do they understand how they should be able to complete that prescription? When they go home, do they understand what their role in surveillance is as they take those antibiotics? So I think that's a partner who we need to bring forward, the community, find mechanisms through which we can have a formal way of engaging them as we discuss this issue. Again, I'm informed that we do have a global action plan that tackles this growing problem of resistance to antibiotics. I do remember last year before COVID in the World Health Assembly, antimicrobial resistance and stewardship is now an agenda at the World Health Assembly, and I'm aware globally there are different efforts underway to be able to combat this issue. This global action plan, amongst many objectives, one of the key elements again is to raise awareness, and that is why we are here today for this day of raising awareness, but also to understand antimicrobial resistance through effective communication, education, and training.
On other stories, plans for vaccination programs have begun taking shape in Europe and the United States following recent breakthroughs, but coronavirus continues to surge globally.
Plans for vaccination programs have begun taking shape in Europe and the United States following recent breakthroughs, but surging coronavirus caseloads prompted grueling new restrictions, with Austria taking the unpopular step Tuesday of closing schools and shops. Global hopes of beating the pandemic were high as US biotech firm Moderna said its vaccine candidate was nearly 95% effective in a trial a week after similar results announced by pharma giant Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech. Moreover, the US Food and Drug Agency may approve both the Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines early next month. In addition to that, the target is that by January, 25 million people will be vaccinated per month. France too said it was getting on the starting blocks for a vaccination program to launch in January pending French and EU regulatory approval, budgeting 1.5 billion euros for the rollout in 2021. Meanwhile, Russia is pushing ahead with the development of 2 vaccine candidates, and President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday urged fellow members of the BRICS alliance of major emerging countries to mass produce them. Putin noted that Russia has manufacturing agreements with China and India, which hosts the world's largest vaccine producer, the Serum Institute of India. Russia announced in August that it had registered Sputnik V, named after the Soviet-era satellite, which it has since said is 92% effective. Putin announced a second coronavirus vaccine, Epivac Corona, last month. Nyakundi Kelvin, Switch TV.
Moving on, Russian President Vladimir Putin is calling on BRICS members countries to mass-produce Russian-made coronavirus vaccines. Speaking during an online summit of BRICS countries chaired by Russia, Putin says that the other 4 members, Brazil, India, China and South Africa, should unite to manufacture and distribute coronavirus vaccines produced by Russia.
Russian President Vladimir Putin Tuesday called on fellow members of BRICS alliance of major emerging countries to mass-produce Russian-made coronavirus vaccines. Speaking during an online summit of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, Putin encouraged the other 4 BRICS members to manufacture and distribute coronavirus vaccines developed by Russia.
They are Russian vaccines. They work effectively and safely. The question is now concerning mass production.
Putin noted that Russia has agreements in place with India and Brazil to conduct clinical trials of its Sputnik V coronavirus vaccine, as well as manufacture agreements in China and India.
It's very important to unite for the mass production of these products into wide circulation.
The world's largest vaccine producer is in India, the Serum Institute of India. However, the Russian leader did not offer specifics as to what the broader efforts between the 5 countries to mass produce the vaccines would entail or outline the commercial conditions. Russia has registered 2 coronavirus vaccines as global race heats up in producing an effective vaccine to combat the pandemic, which has now claimed the lives of over 1.3 million people. Daniel Karaoke for Switch TV.
Thank you, Daniel Karaoke, for that story. It's now time to delve into the world of commerce with Clifford Ndubi.
This is the latest from the world of commerce. Good evening and welcome. My name is Clifford Ndubi. Now, the launch of the first comprehensive insurance cover for civil servants and employees of the National Youth Service has happened today. Civil servants and employees of the National Youth Service did not have a comprehensive insurance cover in place, and it includes COVID-19 cover for medical personnel and other cadres of the civil service. Treasury CS Okuri-Yatani oversaw the launch.
This new scheme, civil servants and employees of the National Youth Service will for the first time have a comprehensive insurance cover with a total annual premium of Kenya shilling 6 billion and 70 million Kenya shillings per year.
Institution of Engineers of Kenya, in collaboration with the Engineers Board of Kenya, is organizing the 27th edition of the Institution of Engineers Kenya International Conference to be held in Mombasa. The conference is aiming to find ways of engineering a post-COVID-19 future, implementing sustainable regional and local development agendas, taking into account global best practices. The largely virtual conference brings together engineering minds from across the world to share experiences and exchange knowledge on a wide range of fields, including agriculture, transportation, water and sanitation, among others.
Starting from the whole.
I think Kipra did a study and found that the economy has contracted from 5.6%, estimated to be 0% growth this financial year. So you can imagine the losses we are having. Of course, we, as an industry, we lost a few of our engineers. I think the first victim of COVID was from the engineering sector.
A lot of stuff has been disrupted, and we really have to think of new ways. From the private sector, we are reporting about 50% reduction in revenues. Jobs have cut down. Construction is sort of slowing down. And really, people have changed how they run their business. We also had the tax amendments in 20th of April that has impacted sort of the green sector, which is a big part of the engineering industry. And you find that people who would have invested in high-level green infrastructure are sort of backing up because the taxes that were exempt before now have been imposed.
Right, that's all we had for you from the business world. Up next is sports news.
From the sports desk. The Football Kenya Federation National Executive Committee has appointed a Premier League Management Committee ahead of the 2020-2021 season expected to begin on November 28th. In a statement released today by the Federation, the committee will be chaired by KCBFC chairperson Azu Ogola, while Dan Shikanda of AFC Leopards, Robert Mauga of Kariobangi Sharks FC are amongst the members. The season will kick off with a match between AFC Leopards against a new-looking Western Steamer. Meanwhile, Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah has tested positive for coronavirus again. The Egyptian Football Association has confirmed the 28-year-old initially tested positive last week while on international duty with Egypt and was in self-isolation. However, medical swab taken from the 28-year-old came back as positive on Wednesday, which will rule him out of Liverpool's match with Leicester in the Premier League on Sunday. Dominic Thiem Heat is standing backhand edging Rafael Nadal in straight sets to continue his unbeaten campaign at this year's ATP Finals in London. Dominic becomes the first man to move into the last four of the ATP Finals.
Oh, it's just incredible hitting. Corner to corner. Doesn't matter which wing it is.